Well, hey everybody, welcome to this episode of HITRUST Secrets, where we go through any and all questions related to high trust assessments, GRC, risk management, or anything in general. I'm Sue Richards, joined with Donna Knudsen and Tracy Slaughter today. So, welcome everybody. Does anybody have any questions to kind of kick off?
I have one actually that's come up recently. So I have a client who had previously gone through an I-1, is now going through I-1 Rapid Research. And the question at hand is they only applied for, I think, four controls out of the 181 that needed to have that had eligibility for uh, inheritance. Now, not all 181 do, obviously, but there are definitely more than four. And the way I mapped it is about 100 because they go through, they're a Microsoft realm client. So, Microsoft offers a very strong level of inheritance, especially where Azure and other things are used. So, since they only had four in the first go, can we add inheritance in the middle at a research?
Um, I originally, up until this week, would have said, "Oh yeah, sure, absolutely," because you're resetting. But the continuing saga of that interim assessment that I'm doing, where they were migrated from a co-location to a cloud service provider. We submitted it. The assessor looked at all the controls because we had to add some controls to it. The assessor looked at
Mhm.
all the controls. We were good. Submitted it to HITRUST. It's come back for QA because I made one of the controls they listed as 100%. They scored it at 100%, even though there's nothing that they don't actually allow. It was for the removable media, and they don't allow removable media. And
Mhm.
so they last year scored it 100% because it's in their policy. It's in there's no procedure about it, and they did an attestation that says we don't allow removable media for any of our endpoints. I thought it was a better choice to say it was not applicable because it doesn't apply. It's in their policy that it's prohibited. So there is, and there's technical controls around making sure that you aren't plugging in a USB. But HITRUST came back with a QA task basically to say, why is this where it used to be this and now it's this? So why is that? And
Yeah.
when I came back and said, well, I was looking more at the applicability of it versus, and it's not on the Never NA list, which is one of the things that I discovered a whole new appendix in the High Trust Assessment Handbook that I wanted to share today. It's not in that list as a Never NA. And so I was kind of like, well, why wouldn't I be able to? So I was going to caution that, if you had it scored and you think it should be NA, or it was NA before and you think it should be scored on the interim, don't change it. If they accepted it that way, just
Yeah.
keep it that way. And I would caution
Okay.
the same thing with inheritance. You might want
Okay.
to open a support ticket to just ask that general question, to just say,
Okay.
hey, would it? Because, as a new assessor looking at this differently,
Mm.
I was trying to apply what I thought was a better
Yeah.
response. And they were like, no, have the same response that your assessor had last year.
Yeah. I feel like with NA though, high trust doesn't like NA ever. So you're always going to have to justify that to the hilt in order to get it passed because they just fundamentally don't like it. Um,
Well, conversely, there was the other QA test that came up was one that we scored that had been
mhm.
NA before. And they were like, why
Okay.
was this NA before and now you're scoring it? And I was like, well, because there really
They feel
shouldn't.
like like the wool got pulled over their eyes last time. They weren't
I
happy about
guess, yeah. So they were
it.
question and they were like, oh, okay, scoring it, that they kind of accepted that as an answer, but they did flag that also. So that's where I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, don't rock the boat. If they did it before, wait
Yeah.
until your full reassessment to do it the way
Okay.
you want to. Um,
Sure. I had put it out to the assessors because I know that sometimes high trust changes the way they roll on things. And I figured the assessors would know. But they said they actually haven't come across that before. In this circumstance, it appears that the previous compliance person just didn't. didn't know and didn't maybe ask anyone and received no guidance on inheritance. Because the fact that they only submitted 4 and were eligible for 100
Right.
is
Well,
that's
now on a rapid
absolutely
research,
catastrophic. I'm not
uh,
saying they would have got them all, but to be eligible for 100 at 50% or more, that's a really big difference.
yeah.
I'm surprised they were even able to prove out things.
Well, they probably used like a SOC 2 report or something like that from, oh no, really, they didn't.
No,
So they relied
not
on their own evidence and they just kind of ignored the fact that they had a vendor that was doing this.
that they have some things that they literally can't show because Microsoft does it
Okay.
as part of the Azure. I mean, they there have to be things like that, right?
Yeah, well, like physical controls is usually a pretty easy one because if you're relying fully on a cloud service provider, you can 100% inherit and they allow full inheritance on some of those controls
Mhm.
because you can't walk through their data center,
Right.
and you're not privy to their visitor list.
Hmm.
But I'd be curious to see what evidence they used last year to show
Yeah.
that. Now, for a rapid
Yeah. Not all that is
recertification,
readily available either.
oh, really? Oh, it's not in the
It's
assessment
fun.
object?
So I've got the assessment object that I can't speak to what they did or didn't use for naming conventions. Well, I
Okay.
can speak to what they didn't use for naming
But the
conventions.
assessment object should have it linked to those controls.
It doesn't seem to be quite that easy.
Oh,
So it appears in there, but it's not necessarily, I mean, maybe I'm overlooking a way to extract it or download it. It doesn't appear to be possible in this situation.
okay. Because usually if I go into an old assessment, I can look into a control and then you see
And
where it
you
says
can
linked
download it.
documents.
I can see the names of the documents. That doesn't specifically help me in this case.
But the names, you should be able to click on the name and it should open the document.
Yeah, it didn't. I would have thought so
Okay.
too.
Because
Um,
that's been my
so I'm
experience.
okay. Let me try it again because
Okay.
maybe I've just not clicked on it right or something. Um, and it's not different for like different levels of
I
my CSF.
I don't know because the I-1s that I've worked with, that's been a brand new assessment. They haven't had an older assessment. And I was going to ask you about the rapid research. It's similar to the interim, but it's not just the 19 controls, right? I mean, how many are included in a rapid research? Is it like 50
Half.
or 60? Okay.
No, it appears to be about 90. It looks
Oh,
looks
okay.
like it's but yeah, I mean, so if your experience with the I-1, so isn't that they had a previous assessment? How did you
No, this was an R2 and we're doing the interim and I can go back to the assessment that they did last year and I can
the R
see,
two? Yeah.
yeah, and I can
Okay.
click into the control, go into the where it shows the linked evidence,
Hmm.
and then it's down at the bottom on the bottom left-hand side. It'll show the document names and then I can click on a
Hmm.
document and it'll open it.
Do you know what your role is, Donna,
What my role is? Yeah,
in
I'm
my
an
CSF?
administrator on it.
Okay.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I'm listed in there. Um, yeah, I'm an administrator. Um, just don't know. So I can't when I click on those documents, let me make sure I'm clicking on the right ones. Nothing happens.
Okay. So you're going control by control, not in the
Yeah,
whole
within
evidence
a specific,
library.
yeah, no,
Okay.
within a specific control, and you go to the little paperclip
Yep.
things, and you scroll all the way down, and I mean, I can see it. Um, I can see the title looks like I should be able to click on it and access it, but it doesn't. I'm not
Okay.
getting anything that I've got like pop-ups being blocked or something.
All right. I would
Uh,
open a support ticket on that because you should
okay,
be able to.
okay.
Because that'll at least make your life a little more straightforward because you're like, okay, I may
Okay.
have to do 90 evidence gathering that maybe I only needed to do 40 next year, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't usually have to go to my CSF for past evidence, so I think that's probably why I haven't
Okay.
encountered it. I would never in a million years advise a client to rely on my CSF
No,
for
no, but at least
document
this
access.
way, yeah. But if you're expecting to get pushback or you just are like, what evidence could possibly be used, then you can go back and go, oh, well,
Yeah,
this is what was accepted last year.
yeah.
Because that's what I
I'll
did
just
with this
figure
one. I
it
was
out.
like, well, how would you if you don't allow removable media, what did you
Hmm.
do? And it basically the implemented evidence was an attestation saying there is none.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Okay.
okay, because I was like, how do you
Yeah.
prove a negative? And it's like, well, you just tell them
Oh,
that we don't allow
I
it.
hate
So
those. Yeah. Yeah.
it was
That,
pretty
that
straightforward for me to just go, okay, I need another attestation this year. It says you don't
yeah.
allow
I
it.
hate using attestations, so it just feels like, yeah, I don't like them. I much prefer coming up with some measure to prove it out, but I have used them on occasion.
Yeah,
Yeah. Especially with the super small kind of micro clients because they don't always have
exactly.
the formality. Yeah.
Exactly.
Anyways,
All right, so let me share
fun
what
times though.
I learned this week. Because like I said,
Yeah, let's see it.
as I was going through the High Trust Assessment Handbook and I was going through this QA process, so you've got the handbook. It's on the High Trust website, and
Hmm.
you can go read the handbook. And I still have to watch the webinar series to see how good this is. But here's the handbook.
Hmm.
So if you go click here to download it, um, you actually get, wait, there it is, this handbook, which I just downloaded. And you'll
Hmm.
see in here all the Appendix A's. It goes to A19.
Hmm.
But if I am in the actual handbook, I go down to the appendices and there's an A20.
Oh, they haven't updated their PDF.
No. So,
Interesting.
and I remember we walked through these never NA examples. And so
Yeah.
when I first had seen this appendix, I was like, oh, so here's the list. That's not horrible. You know, here are the list of things that you would never have as NA. And it talks about the rationale behind. And then I realized I'm like, oh, these are examples. So I had to go down here to this never NA registry, which
Hmm.
is a bigger list of
Yeah.
things, controls. Unfortunately, the control that I marked as NA is not in this list. So because I double checked, I was like, well, okay, before I tell them that that's why I did it, let me just make sure. And
Yeah.
it's sure enough, it's not in here. It's one of the O3s. Um, but there's a lot in here. I mean, these are all just the O1s. This is all just domain one
Hmm.
here. Here's domain two.
Well, the domain one is a lot of the organizational responsibility though,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So they,
And
I
there's
mean, you gotta hold some responsibility. So I can see all
Yeah.
that.
No, I mean, and I can understand you typically are, to mark that as NA would be kind of weird to say, there is no CISO. That's not applicable, because I'm pretty sure that one of those is that you have
We don't
a,
need policies.
yeah, we don't have a governance program. That's not applicable. But it jumps from the O2s to the O4. So the O3 domain isn't even in here. And so I was kind of like, oh, good, I'm covered. Now I can make this an NA, even though it was scored last year. But then looking up here, it says there may be high trust requirement statements not listed. And I'm like, which also generate QA tasks with Mark NA. And I'm like, oh, there's my little 0311 removable
Yeah.
media requirement. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, so this was what caught me this week with what I thought was going to be just a very straightforward interim assessment. I was like, I've already done the hard work with getting the extra controls in there for migrating to a new platform,
Hmm.
and it's just going to sail through QA. And I'm like, it got stopped.
Yeah.
Whereas I've had full-on assessments, sail through QA, get into the whole process, but this is like kind of that stopping point. So yeah, to just be aware that if you do download you read the handbook, but if you download it, you're not going to get this piece. You can go into here, Never NA, and you can actually print it. So that's what
Hmm.
I've done here is I've got a PDF of it. So I always have it when I'm traveling. But I know, Donna, when we talked about this before about downloading it, you were like, I always just like to read the full on,
Yeah.
the one that's always online.
I do
Um,
too. That
and
and
that
that is genuinely what I do because I don't like to miss anything that High Trust might tweak or publish or change about any of the sections because I think they probably do have adjustments to various
right.
categories or whatever. If you look through their change log, which you can also
Yeah.
find as part of the PDF, it starts at page 230 and goes to 237.
Right. Yeah,
That's just
they
their
have their
change log.
appendix. Yeah, they have their appendix here, version 1 and version 1.1.
Mhm.
And it's funny because they didn't put adding appendix A20 in here.
Yeah. No,
It's
but they
like, nope,
also,
added a new appendix, and that's all there is.
yeah, yeah.
So
Um,
there's this apparently is version 1.2. We just don't have the change log for it yet.
okay. All right. Well,
But
that sounds fun.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
Good to
I
know.
mean, the handbook has come in really handy. I still would like more info. So it's good on the uh, guidance for the framework itself. It's less so on the functionality for my CSF, which would be great to just have a little bit more of a deep dive, in terms of even what each report includes or doesn't include.
hmm
If you're looking at scores, does this report include the inheritance scores, you know,
yes,
that you are pulling in and that sort of thing. Because I've had that be a point of confusion with their customer support team before, because, support looked at it and said no. And because I said, does this include inheritance? And they said no. And there was no column for inheritance. So what I was asking for is it included in the score? Um, and that ended up going up the food chain a bit because there was I didn't understand the scores if it didn't include inheritance, but anyways, so it got there and there was no clear information in the handbook or anything else, because customer support likes me to point me to the handbook, which I find frustrating because I looked in the handbook before I called them.
exactly. And I remember you saying that before, and that's why before I responded to that QA task, I was like, okay, let me look at the handbook and just make sure that this isn't part of that never NA. And I'm gonna be like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, should have read the manual before I marked the score. Um,
yeah, yeah. I
but
mean,
yeah,
it'd be nice. I like the handbook because they also bounce around, different sections. So you can click, through to different things, which is of course the benefit of having an online handbook versus like a Word document or something, which you can link a little bit to different places, but not quite the same.
exactly. Yeah, and like I said, I keep a copy of it locally just in case I'm traveling or, it's just hard to find that or the internet's not that great. But yeah, as a general course, if I'm at my desk, I'm going to use the online version no matter what. Um, and you're talking about the inheritance reminded me of these calculators. I just got an email or I saw a post from HITRUST about the different calculators
Hmm.
and what they do. And that's one of the because I use a report to kind of gauge is this particular assessment going to pass certification? Because
Yeah,
you're not ever
yeah,
100% on things. There's a couple of
yeah,
times that you're inheriting something from somebody else and they're not 100%, and so you're kind of like, okay, where am I going to be? Am I going to have caps, gaps, whatever?
yeah.
But I love this because they do have a requirement scoring calculator, so
Hmm.
you can look at it to see the ROI calculator. I think is just a sales tool,
Yeah. And I've
but
I've
I
seen some of their calculators before, but it's like the client I was working with at the time had like 850 controls because they had, the R2 plus a few factors. And I had no interest in going through to manually calculate each item that
right.
was eligible for some level of inheritance. I wanted to pull a report that would, provide the red flags that I needed to pay attention to if the score wasn't where it needed to be,
Well, see,
especially at domain and the different kind of grouping levels.
Yeah, and what I was hoping that this would do, because sometimes there's more than one control that makes up a particular category, and it's the
Yeah.
category that they're assessing for whether you pass or not. So I was actually hoping this, obviously this is inheritance, but the scoring calculator would actually be, yeah, requirements. Yeah, so the requirement scoring calculator, so that it would actually be, okay, for this particular, 09AB, which is the audit controls, and
Hmm.
there's probably five or six different requirements that make up 09AB. If I
Hmm.
had this for this and this for that and that, and I wasn't 100% on everything, where am I going to be? Where am I going to land? Am I going to have caps or gaps? And I don't think it does that here. I think this is just kind of a what
No, it
if. Yeah.
it
So
also there's not a lot of I feel like with the new AI trends, they could find some way to better explain some of the controls because I can't tell you how many questions I still get on those. And I noticed that my CSF now doesn't call it, what did they used to call it? Illustrative procedures. They don't call it that anymore.
yes, now it's just
I mean, they were
guidelines or
running jokes on
yeah,
how not illustrative they were, but it's you just want more information. What exactly are you looking for? And then they repeat the control, which is
exactly.
not
It was
helpful,
useless. Yeah. It was
right?
definitely useless. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was
Yeah.
legalese. It was just and then take a sample of that. You're like, a sample of
The
what?
only one that was slightly helpful was for the implemented, and you can somehow then backpedal, but for policy and process, it was
Yeah.
not much use.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I agree on that one. It's just, and my clients are going, well, we don't understand what they want. And that's where I say, okay, right. So pretend for the sake of argument that these were written by lawyers who don't know anything about technology. I think
Exactly.
some of them
A
might have
good way
been.
to put it.
So
Yeah. Good way to
yeah.
put it.
So it's then trying to put that spin on it and saying, okay, if you were this person and you didn't understand anything about your job, what do you think they're trying to ask for? And then I kind of walk that through. Um, it's I find it more difficult because there are definitely things where I go looking and it would be helpful to have more information, but such is life.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and so unfortunately, I saw the thing about calculators, and I'm like, oh, good, this will be, because like I said, what I typically do is I run, it's one of the reports, it's like the CSF control report or something in High Trust,
Mhm.
and it comes up with, red, yellow, green for the, I think it's even just the 00 to 12, so those 13 domains that are not the high trust 19 domains. And then the next page, the second page is always by the control category. And so I just kind of look at those control categories and go, okay, if I'm a 75, chances are I'm going to be okay.
Mhm.
But to have that as a calculator to be able to say, yes, this is, if you tweak this, if you can get this one from a 50% to a 75%, you're
Mhm.
going to be fine, or you're going to have a gap, but not a cap, type of thing. So to just have something definitive like that. So, you kind of have that granular level to go, okay, if there's five controls that make up this control category and two of them are lacking, if you really push and get maybe a policy update or an implemented, just one more scoring criteria, to jump you, then you can go from having a gap to a cap, because right now it's still kind of that. I think you're gonna, we're gonna get there, but it's not just a clear sailing over the hurdle.
Mhm. Yeah.
But
No, it can be really tricky.
yeah, so maybe when we have some high trust leadership on, we can go, hey, a wish list.
Yeah.
Which I do. I have a couple of inputs into some of the people at High Trust. So in addition to Gregory Webb, the new CEO, but a couple of the others, to try to get them to come to a High Trust Secrets in the future, and just kind of get information from them about what they do. One's on the
Mhm.
innovation side and one's on the assurance side. So
Yes.
fingers crossed
Yeah.
that we'll get more from the high trust themselves as opposed to walking through the assessment handbook and all that. But
Yeah.
more
Well, I
to come on
imagine
those.
though, what we'd be able to chat with Greg about is a little bit more strategic in terms of high trust organizational direction, which will be
Exactly.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So still working on getting that scheduled, but
Sounds
all
good.
right. Anything else? Any other highlights, lowlights, questions, frustrations?
Trying to think of anything else I've seen recently. Um, Not in terms of high trust things,
Okay.
just plugging along, the same as they have been. But I imagine with the change in leadership that we will start to see some shifts. It's just a matter of
Hmm.
time.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. Well, that's all. I guess we can just wrap up for the day if we're good.
Sure.
All right. Well, thanks for
Again.
joining.
All right.
Bye.
Nice to
Yeah.
chat with everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for watching. We really appreciate it. If you got value from this episode, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the next HITRUST Secrets. We go live every Thursday at 2 p.m. Central and dig into real-world compliance and security topics. And each session gets uploaded right here after the live show. So whether you're catching us live or on your own time, make sure you're subscribed. We'd love to have you along on your HITRUST journey.